Hi, my name is Michelle Souza. I am the moderator for a fantastic documentary that you just saw called the Donut Dollies. In the room with me, I have the two producers, Jim Gardner and Jess Hill. I have Mary Cohoe, and I have Larry Hines, who were both Donut Dollies in Vietnam in the 60s, who we were delighted to have with us in the room.
Yes.
And I want to start really at the beginning because I didn't know anything about the Donut Dollies. I, like the rest of the world, never heard of the Donut Dollies. I lived in Hawaii. I was about 6 years younger than the Donut Dollies, and I had a major hospital that helped the overseas men who were very injured. And yet we never heard about the Donut Dollies, not even on that island. And it wasn't until I saw this movie that I went, wow, this is an incredible story. So, Jim, I guess I'd like you to take the lead and tell us how the story of this film came about. With what I just read in one of the articles was Norm, the director, in college, called his mother, Dorset, who's one of the dollies we see in the documentary, and she's crying over the phone because she has lost some of the memorabilia she had from that time. And this started this whole process. Please take us through that if you can.
Yes, as best as I can. So Norm is actually back in Western Mass with Dorset right now, and hopefully they'll be seeing this. Dorset is the lady on the left there in the red. She's a sweetheart. But yes, a lot of Donut Dollies, when they came back from Vietnam, they tended to store away items. I've learned as the archivist of the project that a lot of women came home and purged. They just threw things away.
Wow.
And so with us, I think, with Mary and Larry, I feel that they have nice collections, and we've seen some nice collections. But Dorset packed hers away, and they didn't have much storage, and so it was put into a shed. It was Western Massachusetts, and unfortunately, over time, snow and water just ended up destroying, and you saw that in the film. That was real time. And so Norm really didn't know. I mean, he knew that his mom had adventures, but he didn't know about this whole Donut Dolly episode in Vietnam. And so I guess around graduation, high school, into college, he began filming her and getting some of those stories down.
And when he did this initially, was he intending to be a filmmaker, or was he just doing this because this was his mother and he wanted to record her history? Did he know it was going to go somewhere?
I believe that it was a family, it was for family. He wanted to just get this down. And then in turn, he did find that he loved filmmaking, just carrying around that high 8 camera and just filming what he could. And he ended up going through to USC Film School, where he got an MFA there, yeah. I think it was. Yeah. And so, that was part of the impetus of him getting into this career. And he's done great things over this time, including this film.
So let's take it even further. I'd like to know, how long did it take him from the beginning till when he decided, I think I want to make it film, to bringing you two gentlemen on, perhaps? I've heard of 5-year or a 6-year.
Do you want to jump in?
I could
I'd like a timetable, really, actually, I think, because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think we can tag team on this.
Yeah, exactly, because you know more about early stuff, and I know more about later stuff, even though I've known Dorset all my life, but she babysat for me when I was a tiny kid.
Wow.
Yeah. Everything.
So yes, I understand, Jess, that you were in Vietnam, actually. So when we get to that portion, I'd like you to step up and tell us really what it took to shoot in that country. And ideally what I'd like to do is do this for like, 15 minutes. And then I'd like to hear from Larry and Mary about their adventures,
You have
I
to.
think that's really important.
Yes. Well, then,
So 20 years ago.
yeah,
right?
20 years ago is
Wow.
about when this all started. And then 6 years, it had to be done.
Uh-huh.
We were working on something. Norm and I had been working on something else at the time. And I walked in one day and he was moving around with the footage of Dorset. And of course, Dorset, I know, like I said, since infancy. So I think at that moment we decided, hey, we've got to at least get over to Vietnam and see if it would be possible to put this together. And the urgency was there because the memorabilia is going away, and like you were surprised about Donut Dollies, I was surprised too.
Yes.
We're all surprised. So we all felt like really catalyzed, right? And so it was 2014 we made a first foray into Vietnam in May, and kind of explored the region where we might shoot and the possibilities. And we went in March of 2015. Then we can talk more about that later. But so it's like we've been working on it really hard since January of 2015 at least.
Yes. Yeah.
And before you went over, had Dorset told Mary that her son wanted to do a documentary in Vietnam and Dorset wanted Mary to go? Or how did that come about? I mean, or was Mary always there for the last 20 years?
Yeah, that's my take, is that they're always in touch, but Jim probably knows more about this.
Yeah, they're very good friends. They keep in touch. And I think it kind of was something that was, I won't say a surprise or sprung on, but it was like almost out of the blue, Norm
Right.
said to Dorset, what do you think about this? Do you think Mary can go? And as we saw in the film, Mary had her challenges. That's
Right.
Mary Cohoe. And but it worked out. It really did. There was, Jess can tell you about the difficulties of getting a film crew to Vietnam. So
Yes, I'd actually like to hear about that now, Jess. So we've gone up from the point of like, this is now, this was the seed when he discovered his mother's stuff that had been, ruined by the weather, to now he's got marriage. Norm's got his mother and her friend on board, and you are now proceeding to do a scout in Vietnam, and then you're having to deal with all the logistics of a country which, I guess isn't communist per se, but I'm sure that there were probably a lot of maybe more hurdles that you had to go through in terms of filming in that country that filming in Canada, say, or something like that.
Yeah, we all, Jim also, we're all, involved in the prep and leading up to us getting over there. But yeah, I think in the beginning, the big decision for me was, do we, as many people were advising us, go over there and just steal the documentary? Do we just go over with our iPhones and shoot it and not tell anybody? And the reason for that, a lot of people were saying, is you're going to be able to get to these locations where you might want to go, like orphanages and certain areas that are like the mountain
yard people. Yes,
the areas that are sensitive. But it really seemed to me like that would be, aside from taking something from that country, was a little bit reckless with Mary's condition, especially. So
Right.
we had to go about finding a local producer who was wonderful, who you see in the movie, getting permits, getting press passes, submitting the script for approval. So you're talking about them being communists, it was really, I would say, it really, really felt like a communist country. It was not light. It wasn't communist light at all. They needed to know exactly everything in the movie. They needed to know where we're going to go. And the itinerary had to be by the hour. And they sent people, minders, with us, right? So they sent somebody from Hanoi, came and met us down in Ho Chi Minh, and he stayed with us the whole time. And then every place that we went to, we'd pick up 1, 2, sometimes 3 more minders that would just shadow you. Like,
Wow.
they would split up and follow us.
Did that even include like when Dorset and Mary went to dinner or met Bob? I think his name was Bob, who ran that cafe.
Yeah, we had a difficult time at Bob's. with one of the minders that night.
Interesting.
But we had one from Hanoi, where who was wonderful, Vin, and he has credited in the movie too because he was really, really a wonderful man. And and I want to underline too, everybody was really wonderful. So everybody we met was great. I mean, we had a couple instances with these minders with Bob's when we tried to see the Montagnard people up in the hills. They gave us runarounds, and they followed Mary and I once for all day because they thought we were going to. I don't know what they thought we were going to do. We were going to hit this orphanage or something. Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, really, it was the right thing to do. And I mean, we didn't get to some locations that would have been, more dazzling, a little more, emotional perhaps, but. Well,
I think at that point, it depends, you have to weigh getting a great shot and putting your crew and your cast and yourselves on the line for something that could potentially be more dangerous than you even anticipated, So I think that you erred on the side of, I would err on the side of caution and professionalism, actually.
I think it's the most respectful way, I think, to treat what we had to go do.
Right.
And then, little logistic things like you were talking about logistics before, medevac insurance. So like if there was something happened with Mary, the protocol is you have this special number you can ring and you can meet a helicopter to take you to Thailand. The helicopter would take you to Bangkok. If you needed to go to a hospital, if we had something catastrophic happen, that's where they would go. That's where we would go.
Right.
That's the kind of insurance we bought. And
wow.
Just a little tidbit.
How speaking of insurance, and now we're talking budget a little bit, but I'm interested, like, was this a Kickstarter program, or did Norm? It was a Kickstarter program then.
Yes, it was. We're very, very grateful to the Kickstarter donors, especially. There are several Donut Dollies that participated. Larry, I think you did, right? I think so. She's nodding. And so anyways, yes, to get us, for our budget to go to Vietnam, for the cameras, 4K cameras, the insurances, the flights everywhere, Sprinter van throughout the country, we raised $27,000, which was, it was a wonderful thing. And that basically got us there. And then everything else was charge cards, so it's not an inexpensive proposition, but we're just so honored, from the Kickstarter donors and people who are still donating.
Right. Absolutely. And Jess, how many people were on your crew there? I'm curious. Did Norm direct, or was he operating the camera as well, or? Did you have a sound person, or
Right, we were 9. Norm always had a camera. I sometimes did, like half, and we had a cinematographer, Joe, with us. So he was running all the cameras, let's say, and we had Angeline Heron was also with us. She did stills, which were very important.
Yes.
To capture as well. For audio, we all pitched in, mostly Norm. We had, these wireless capture devices in a backpack, and then lavalier mics, and where we could, audio off the cameras. The audio was something we would definitely kind of re-engineer next time out if we were to do this again.
Well, the first time is always like the first time, right? And then you know what you're doing. So then you come back with all this amazing footage, and then the editing process must have been phenomenal, because by that time you were having a lot of archival footage. You mentioned 8mm films that you got in. Still photos from the Donut Dollies and everyone else that was there that could, give you some of this information. So how long was your editing after that?
5 years. About 5 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a process. The LA chapter of the Red Cross had their 100th anniversary, and they invited Dorset and our team to screen a 45-minute version. and it was for their volunteers and for their event, and it was so well received. And out of that, we got notes, from people. It's like, oh, I would like to see this or know about this. And it's that type of process, and of course you're always doing rough cuts. And
Right.
so thanks to a lot of friends and family, who saw multiple rough cuts, they were, very helpful and honest. And also as the archival materials came in, it helped shape a lot. So far we've received at least 4,000 archival photos, most of them unseen. In fact, my laptop is sitting on a box right now, full of 8mm slides and photos, and so there's that,
which we've been scanning by hand, one by one.
Have you, this is just an aside, but have you thought about compiling a book about the Donut Dollies as like something going off of this project, maybe into somebody else's hands, a friend that wants to publish or is interested in doing that? Because I think it'd be a fantastic book. You have all this material, and I mean, like I said, I've never heard of them. There's a lot of historical accounts of Vietnam and what happened there, and I've never heard of the Donut Dollies, and I think the Donut Dollies deserve a book as well as a film. So,
and to that end, something that I started back in 2017. So if you go to donutdollies.com, ONUTDOLLIES, up in the top tab, you'll see Donut Dolly Detail. And what we have is we provide each Donut Dolly with 10 questions. And they provide at least 4 photos, and then I create a formatted kind of Q&A for them. And so we've done 60. And so really there are stories in there that are just astounding.
I can imagine. Let me just read a couple comments right now because they just came in before we invite Larry and Mary to join the party here. Kira received a comment from Johnny Talo, who says, "Hi, Jim.
Oh, yes.
It's Judy Nichols Talo. I served in Vietnam in 1969-70 in Bien Hoa and Cam Ron Bay as a Donut Dolly. Thank you for this documentary. It was so poignant, brought back many memories, and was very well done."
Thank you to both of them.
And then
she has a story up on the Donut Dolly Detail, so please check that out.
Cool. Make sure I read that. Then we have another comment from Renee Johnson, who says, "Well done, Jim, Norman, Jess, and special thanks to Dorset and Mary for bringing it all back. Vietnam, 69-70, Donut Dolly, 70-71, Army Special Services."
Yeah, thank you.
And then the next comment is from Diane Anderson Hunt here. "I was a Donut Dolly in Korea, 71-72. I'm anxious to view the film with my family this coming week." And then from Melody Carlisle, she says, "It's great to see these." And that's Melody, who's like, our tech guru here. But I think it's wonderful. I think that this project should just continue and should be told. And I've watched a lot of documentaries and films in my time, and this is one of the special ones for me. Now I want to bring in Mary and Larry, and I wrote down I'm rewatching stuff, and I wrote down a quote that one of your colleagues said that really spoke to me. She said, "A gal from home who came and cared." That's what they were. That's what you were. So I think I'd like to hear from you two ladies about really what it was like. I know, Larry, that you said that you were recruited and from the Red Cross. And I don't know if you were recruited, Mary. I was wondering, what were the different ways that young women got involved with this? I mean, was there a flyer up on the grocery store, or was it mostly a recruitment thing, or because back in the day when you went, you were isolated. And you were isolated then, unlike now, where there's no, you can't look at it. It doesn't come across your feed on your computer or anything. It's you know, the 1960s. So how did you, Mary, how did you get involved in this?
Well, basically, to start with, to be in the SRAO program, Supplemental Recreational Activities Overseas, there was a brochure out at teacher placement bureaus in colleges. And while I was being interviewed from different schools, I picked one up and I just got curious. Then I put it away, and then I went to go teach at a public school for a couple of years. And meanwhile, Vietnam was going on, and young men were being drafted. And for me, there are a number of veterans who served in the different conflicts, starting with World War II and Korea and to the present. And so after a couple of years, I thought I've got to do something else. So I remembered that brochure, and I looked and I dug it out. It was still in my footlocker.
Oh.
And I thought, I qualify. I'm a college graduate. I'm single. I'm between the ages of 21 and 24 at the time. And I had relatives in Vietnam, close relatives. And so I thought, I've got to get there. And without the Red Cross, I literally planned a way to get there. I thought, okay, I figured out my flights from Albuquerque to Saigon, and what it would cost on commercial flights. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't have that kind of money. And I didn't have anybody to co-sign for me for a loan. And besides that, I thought, what would I do when I get to Vietnam? Because I want to go see my relatives and other Native American men, especially the ones from the Navajo reservation. And so I looked into the brochure, and I qualified, and I applied. I was accepted, and so that's how I got interested, and I really wanted to get to Vietnam, and so I did.
And how about you, Larry? You went to recruitment center or something?
No, I actually went to my college. I was a senior in college.
Oh, okay.
I was very, very disturbed about Vietnam. I did not understand why my high school and college classmates were getting sent halfway around the world and coming home changed and
Right.
even getting killed there. I just didn't understand it. And I had been a fraternity sweetheart my senior year in college. So I was around young men all the time, and they don't scare me. But I thought if they could go and get sent there, maybe I can go and make a difference. So
Right.
I actually had an interview with a bank at my placement office, and I was sitting there waiting for my bank interview, and a large Red Cross woman in a uniform came waltzing through the lobby and looked around at about 20 or so people sitting there, and she came right over to me and she said, "Can you come talk to me for a minute? I have something to tell you I think might be interesting." And I'd been a blood donor since I was 18. So I thought, well, maybe she wants me to be a candy striper kind of thing. I didn't know this program existed.
Mm-hmm.
And once she got me back in her little cubicle with the trifold and showed me the pictures and told me, but she told me, don't get your hopes up. You probably won't get chosen. She made it very, very selective sounding. And I think it was, especially in the Southeast, the Red Cross tried to get representation from each part of the country. And the Southeast, I know they had multiple more people apply than could go. So that's what recruiting was. I mean, she saw me. And if you look at our pictures, Jim, you've seen them all. We're the wholesome girls next door. We did all have to be college graduates. We were a lot older than most of the guys that we saw. And we were sent there we weren't sent. We volunteered to go there to be a touch of home in the combat zone. And when the guys found out, first of all, that we were volunteers and that we could leave anytime. We had a 24-hour window that we could just say, I've had it. I'm getting out. Get me out of here. You didn't even have to have a reason. They were just amazed that we chose to be there with them and go through some of what they went through out on those forlorn, lonely hilltops and jungle encampments. I mean, we flew right out in helicopters to where they were. And that was the appeal of it, I think, is that we were saying by our actions, America cares. We love every one of you, and your country has not turned its back on you.
Yeah, I think that's just amazingly, I don't know, it's just amazing that you were there with them, you know? That's like the blessing. They had blessings. They had you. And
They still come up to us now at reunions with just tears,
yeah.
run down their faces. I didn't thank you enough. I didn't thank you at all I didn't understand. And now that we're all in our 60s and 70s and they're reflecting on it, I think they really are amazed that we existed and there was such a need for it, but nobody even knew how to help until I was lucky. I guess, Mary, you were too. I do want to say Mary Blanchard and Dorset and I all started training the same day, which was July the 8th, 1968 in Washington, D.C. Mary and Dorset had gone to St. Louis University together. So they had been friends for years and years and years. I'm very lucky that I served with them. I trained with them. I know Mary, who's on the panel, and also Renee Johnson. I mean, there's 627 of us who served, but not that many of us, we're kind of a vanishing breed, but we're a close sisterhood.
So you two, Mary and Larry, you were actually roommates. You spent your year together in the same villages and cities, etc.
Just one of our assignments. We were in camp. It's the only time I had a roommate. The other time in the trailers, I had my own room. But Mary and I were roommates in Cameron Bay for 5 months, I guess. And we both served in Chulai. She served before Cameron. I served after Cameron. But I mean, we've been sisters of the heart ever since we met. And if you can live in a room as a grown woman on a bunk bed for 5 years, you can go through just about anything. Sure. So I've stayed close for 52 years.
Of the 627 of us, there were 627 of us for the duration of Vietnam. And so there was a rotation of, there were like at least 110 Donut Dollies in country at a time per year. And so we didn't have to be together, the entire tour. I started out in Chulai, and that's way up north. Vietnam is into, 4 or 5 different areas? And so
4, yeah.
The Red Cross knew that I had a brother in Vietnam, but they didn't know that he was wounded and he came back. But so I was assigned to Chulai, way up north, just right below Da Nang. And so from there to Cameron, and we didn't know, just like the military, we didn't know where we were going to be assigned to next. All of a sudden it would be, okay, you're ready to go. You're leaving tomorrow or the next day. And so we had mobile units as well as recreation centers. And Chulai was totally mobile units. Then in Cameron Air Base, we had 2 recreation centers. It was so huge. And then nearby, I don't know how many miles away, there was Cameron Army also. But as Red Cross Donut Dollies, we were serving all the branches of the military, not just one branch, but all the branches in Vietnam.
Wow. And then in our spare time, we would go to the hospital wards or go to the flight lines. And not that we had spare time, but we made time to do that. Usually our hospital visitations were to the most seriously wounded patients, and that was done on the weekends. Or we were occasionally grounded. If it wasn't safe for us to fly out in helicopters to the field, they would ground us. And so we would find plenty of other people in the base camp. Everybody was glad to see us, no matter what.
Imagine, really. So maybe this might be for you, Jim. After the war ended, has the Red Cross continued with a program like this? Maybe did they dissolve the Donut Dolly program after Vietnam, or is there continued in some other fashion with a different name?
I believe there are women that serve through the Red Cross on bases around the world. And Mary, Larry, are you aware of that?
They're in different roles, and they're the same. They're social work type people, yeah. And they also do their liaisons about messages from home and that kind of thing. And we had some of that in Vietnam, but the only people who ever flew out in the field and really, saw
Right.
combat was the Donut Dollies. And the program in Korea, I believe, started in the 50s. It sort of was parallel with the years of the Korean conflict.
Yes.
And when we were interviewed for either Korea or Vietnam. It was, they didn't send anybody anywhere. We got to choose if we were offered both locations. Some people were not offered both locations.
And
Let
the
me,
Dollies-
oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say the Donut Dollies were last in Vietnam in 72.
72, all right, 65 to
Okay,
70.
72.
7 years.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have a comment from Maggie Connor Doodley.
All right,
Say,
Maggie.
great presentation, Jim. From Maggie. And she was in Da Nang from 71 and Cameron's in 72. So
We've included some of her 8mm films, so you've seen Maggie, and she's a
I'm
sweet.
sure, I tell you, the spirit of all the young women that I saw on the screen was like, it was just heartwarming. It was so amazing. I mean, I actually I'm tearing up here. Thank God I'm in the dark. It was amazing. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just beautiful. It broke my heart open a little bit. It's incredible. So we have 5 more minutes. Is there anybody that wants to say something, in conclusion
Can I
about?
just say that it was the most important decision I ever made in my life. I didn't know it at the time. I thought I could go over there and spend 13 months and come back the same person.
Right.
And nobody comes back from Vietnam the same person.
Yeah.
You're forever changed. And I try to say to people, I go out to speak a lot of groups and young people, and I try to leave this thought with them, is that Vietnam will always define me, but I don't think I've let it confine me.
I
And
think
that's
it's wonderful.
But it is the best job I'll ever have, ever.
Gentlemen, ladies, I think your joint story of what you told is incredible. I hope that you get into multiple festivals. I hope that this spins off into a book, because seriously, I think with all the stuff you have the possibility of beautiful photographs,
Yeah.
and
music-
that people would be interested, people would be interested. So I just wish you a lot of success in whichever direction you decide to take this in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And to Mary and
I-
Larry, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes,
I
Mary.
just want to say a quick thank you as well to especially Dorset and Mary, and of course to the crew of Donut Dollies, and Jim Cacavo. He was
Yeah.
there too, and I wish we could share more, but it was great and wonderful work. I love the music. Jim Gardner, you were
Yeah.
behind that.
Thank you. And most of it is from people that we know personally. And that made a big difference, I feel. I've got chills just thinking about all the great music. So thank you for that.
I think this movie in conclusion had a whole lot of heart. There's a whole lot of heart in your movie, and I think that's wonderful to behold.
Well, thank you for preserving our story that will live on after we're not here anymore to tell it.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, our honor. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I think in conclusion, we've concluded. And, and maybe I'll be seeing you around. I'm definitely going to buy the book when it comes out.
Okay. We'll
Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you for making this possible.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye-bye.
Bye.